Unfortunately, disaster can strike a restaurant, a business at any moment in time. And as such, a disaster will come out of nowhere and it can knock you off of your game really quick. When that moment happens, in my instance, my business was a restaurant, and what happened to my business was on the early morning of St. Patrick's Day in 2017, a semi-truck crashed into the building that I was renting for my restaurant. The purpose of this video is to share with you and help give you an edge if you are facing some kind of disaster with your business or restaurant. It's to help give you a little bit of insight from somebody who's been through it. But the insights that I've learned over this process, I hope will help you get a little bit of an edge in a world that involves insurance where you don't have the edge, unfortunately. Unless you have a ton of money and like an army of lawyers, you're not going to have the edge. So hopefully some of these insights will give that to you on your battle trying to fight this unfortunate situation which you might find yourself in. So in this video, I'm not offering any legal advice or telling you that this is exactly what you should do. I'm just offering you, based on my experience from my nightmare, what I wish that I had known going into it. So recommendation 1, consider a public adjuster versus a lawyer. Now, I ended up going the lawyer route. My first lawyer was a shyster. My second one was super nice, but he's expensive. I wish I had known about the public adjuster world before I hired a lawyer. I didn't find out about them existing until later into the game. But apparently, they can legally represent and help you negotiate with your insurance company, which is critical. Supposedly they are like from the insurance world itself, so they've got deep insight and knowledge into the nuanced, complicated language of policies, and they're less expensive than lawyers, so that's something that you might want to consider. Number 2, consider hiring your own forensic accountant. Now, I don't know if a forensic accountant would work with a public adjuster, but I had one working with my lawyer. The first thing that my insurance company did was hire a forensic accountant. So then I was like, ding, 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 why don't I do the same thing? What a forensic accountant does is they're a step above a regular accountant, but they can actually give testimony in a court of law. Now, you can't hire a forensic accountant to say this business was great when you hand in like your profit and loss reports and your QuickBooks or whatever it is where you keep your numbers, and they review it. They're gonna find what they find about your business, and you still have to pay them. You might end up paying them $5,000 and then they're like, your business sucks, and your insurance company doesn't have to give you anything. Or they might be like, oh my God, your business is actually really good. Let's compare your insurance company's sales forecasts to what we think or what might be realistic based upon your history. Number 3, whether you go with a public adjuster or a lawyer, this might sound like common sense, and it is, but really take the time necessary to find the right one and a good one. When you are in the moment of a disaster, and some of us will handle it better than others, there's few words that can describe accurately how intense, how stressful, how overwhelming, how surreal. I mean, it's unbelievable. And that level of anxiety and stress can knock you off of your game a little bit. Most people do not operate at their best when under such enormous pressure and circumstances. So you're vulnerable, I think, to maybe making a decision you normally might not have made, or just because you want somebody to be there arguing and on your side. So just give yourself that extra time necessary to find the right people to represent you. So, when you're in that state of shock, just try to move a little bit extra cautiously when you're, trying to figure out who the best people are to represent you and your business. Okay, number 4. Prepare for your insurance company to essentially screw you over every way that they possibly can. I don't mean to be such a downer. You will get money and all of this stuff, but they're gonna lowball you. Those checks are gonna come sporadically. I would have made a number of decisions so differently had I known the hell that my insurance company was gonna put me through. Number 5, your insurance company will get close enough to essentially auditing you. Prepare to hand over every bit of documentation that you have to support. I've been open for 10 years. This is my average sales in the month of March. These are my average sales in the month of April, whatever, for the last, 10 years or however long you've been in business. They are going to want that documentation. And they're going to cross-reference it with like the state, for example. So if I say, I did $20,000 in sales in January, they're going to make sure that I'm reporting the same reports to the state for sales tax. You want to make sure that you have all of that together. It's an exhausting process, but it's really key that you have that bit of information, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get your insurance company to give you losses, money for losses that you can't prove you would have made. And just a quick side note, this is why it's so important to keep accurate, good books. I always kept really solid books because at some point in the future, I wanted to sell my business. I never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would use those good books to back up an insurance claim because a semi-truck crashed into my business and I needed to prove that this is the income I would have generated and ended up losing. Number 6, keep in mind that even though something might be in your policy, so let me give you an example. I had payroll coverage for my employees in my policy, 90 days. Even though it's in my policy, they wanted to fight me on it in every way that they possibly could to deny me that ability to pay my employees. I only had 5 employees as well. I can't even imagine what some of that process would have been like had I had a staff of 20. In the language in the policy, it said nothing about essential employees, but the forensic accountant that my insurance company was using, and you'll interact with, more than likely you'll interact with whoever they hire, because they're gonna wanna talk to you about, your sales. You're gonna be sending them reports, payroll, those types of things, then all of a sudden this word comes out, oh, it's only for essential employees. And I'm like, but it's not in my policy. It doesn't say anything that they have to be essential. That's another, area where you should be prepared. It's like, it might actually be in your policy. They're going to argue, no, actually, we're not going to cover that. One of the things I definitely learned through this experience is that while the policy is there to cover and protect you just a little bit, it's primarily to protect the insurance company. Number 7, okay, this is a big one. This is very personal as well. Not recommending, that everybody do this by any means, but knowing what I know now, I would not have reopened my business. I would have just walked away right after that trucking accident. What I ended up finding out 9 months later, which was the end of 2017, that I was almost like financially ruined. My insurance company was not there for me in the way that I felt they should have been. I ended up borrowing money from friends, from credit cards. I had more debt than when I opened the business. That was unacceptable to me. And I was faced with this decision. Do I go even further into the hole to try to save this business? I mean, it was just an awful situation because I could have just walked away in March. I couldn't let go. I loved my business, but knowing what I know now, I definitely would have walked away then. Number 8, the repayments that your insurer, like the checks that are going to come, more than likely are not going to match your financial needs. Mine were sporadic and chaotic, and there was no continuity at all. That also complicated my financial situation in a very serious way. When you're used to, operating a restaurant, you've got this cash flow that's coming in all of the time, and it's not like that when you're, working through an insurance company and trying to kind of, get out from the rubble that you find yourself under. Number 9, be kind to yourself. You're not going to be able to forecast the future. I mean, I certainly in March did not know what my situation was going to be like in December. And it's okay. It's how the world works. It's how the business world works. There's only so much that you can do. You can only make the best decisions that you can make with the information that you have at the time that you have it. So don't, beat yourself up too badly, if you end up making a few bad decisions, because it's a crazy experience and it's a crazy time. Number 10, be hopeful. There's a lot of reasons to be hopeful. The community, my local community, was amazing, and people come together to support you. You'll be surprised in just such wonderful, loving ways. Please comment below, subscribe to this channel, and thank you so much. I wish you the very best going through what you're going through, which I imagine if you're watching this video, you're going through something, and hang in there.